Hello everyone, and welcome to the final webinar in our management series, entitled, Is Your Team Ready to Go to Market? Today we're fortunate to have Stephanie Hammett delivering this subject matter for you. Stephanie brings with her over 13 years experience working one-on-one with literally thousands of MSP business owners. She's leveraging all that experience from those engagements today to give you all a glimpse into what she sees the most successful MSPs doing to ensure a successful launch of their first or rebranded MSP services. Paying attention today could therefore mean the difference between a slow or expedited growth, so let's make sure to listen to her pointers and ask some great questions throughout. Now, before I turn it over, a couple housekeeping items as usual. In following with that question subject there, make sure you guys ask all of your questions on the right-hand side in the questions panel. If the questions are quick one-off answers, I'll obviously answer them for you as we go, or unrelated to the subject matter specifically. If they are questions that we want the group to see, we'll leave them to the end for Stephanie to answer for everybody. And then the second thing that we need to keep in mind here is that, yes, we are recording this, so don't need to ask that question. It will be posted on the MSP Institute website. If you guys haven't seen that link yet, feel free to ask me in the questions panel as mentioned, and I will be sure to email it to you either right away or at the end of this later on today. All future webinars are also going to be posted there. So once you have the link and you go to that site, make sure you check on it on at least a monthly basis, because we'll be posting new content there on a regular basis. Now, with that, I'd like to pass it over to Stephanie to run through our presentation today. Steph?
All right. Well, thank you so much, Eris. That was a great setup. Yes, really what Eris was saying, the genesis of this presentation really stems from my conversations that I've had with, I don't know if it's thousands, but definitely lots and lots of partners over the years, and having those conversations around, why are some partners really successful? Why are they continuing to grow month over month, year over year? And then there's other partners that really seem to be struggling with their sales. So what I attempt to do with this presentation is really try to identify key behaviors, key characteristics that I see demonstrated by our very successful partners that hopefully might be able to help out, some of the partners out there that are struggling. So moving into the agenda for today, really the biggest question is going to be, if you're about to, start off on a sales and marketing campaign, whether you're new to the industry or maybe you're looking to kind of restart and revitalize your sales efforts, really the biggest question is, who within your organization is going to take ownership of the launch? Who do you plan to target? Are we going after existing clients to start? Or are we going after net new? Have you defined your ideal target market? Have you mapped out your managed services sales process? Have you implemented sales training so that your sales team fully understands the value prop around managed services and how to properly speak and position it to prospects? Have you completed your sales goals, your sales objectives? Have you outlined your expectations to your sales team? Have you identified the key performance indicators that you will use to help track your sales team's success? Have you created your compensation plans for recognition and reward? So as you can see, it's kind of like a checklist of things to consider, and we'll go into each of these in a little bit more detail. And then lastly, have you done a morale check lately? Do you have the right people in the right positions? And hopefully everybody's on board, but if they're not, have you thought about what you're going to do if they're not? So prior to launch, a key decision that needs to be made is who's going to own it? Who's going to drive the marketing and your sales efforts? Who is going to be responsible and accountable for driving that managed services revenue for the organization? Because there's going to be marketing activities that are going to be done that will help drive leads into the sales funnel. And then there's going to be sales activities that are going to need to be done where someone is going to need to kind of grab those leads and run with them and move them through your sales cycle and your sales process. So looking internally, is there anybody that we can assign the marketing activities to? And the same question on the sales side, looking internally, who is going to be responsible for the sales aspects? And I understand in many cases, you may not have the luxury to have a dedicated marketing department or have the resources to outsource your marketing to, an outside marketing company, but you should assign someone on an intern basis to develop the plan and all of your necessary marketing pieces to really help the sales personnel. And then on the sales front, who's going to comprise your managed services sales team? In other words, who's going to be responsible for all of those sales activities through the sales process? Do you have a dedicated managed services salesperson? And again, I get it. I know this is tough, as a lot of our partners don't have, again, the luxury to have dedicated managed services salespeople. And I'm not actually advocating going out there and hiring a dedicated sales rep right away, because that's just going to be costly, especially if you're looking to hire one that's been in the industry for quite a while. So what are some of the other options that we've seen work by our most successful partners? One, is there somebody that we can repurpose into the managed services sales role? Is there somebody that's looking to get into sales that we can kind of, take from what they're doing now and move them into the sales role? Can we hire an appointment setter? Something like an inside sales representative, someone on a short-term contract within the company to do outbound calling and book appointments for the business owner. And this is a really good approach that a lot of our best partners use, because you're able to utilize a less costly resource that can mine your client and prospect database, to make calls on the business owner's behalf. And it keeps a dedicated focus on the managed services sales initiative, as you're tasking someone with just only one job, and that is the one job of making calls and booking appointments. So that this person doesn't get hired, to do the calls, but then gets dragged into making coffee, gets dragged into doing event planning, gets dragged into doing filing. We need to keep it a priority, and if we're going to hire somebody or repurpose somebody to doing the calls, that's all they need to do. That's their sole focus. Because if we can do this, this is really going to free up the business owner and allow them to focus on other items in the business in and around his or her scheduled managed services meetings. And then to help backfill and keep fresh new leads coming into the sales funnel, our best partners leverage their other employees in the organization and their client relationships that they have with their customers, and they are used to help drive additional referrals to the business owner or the salesperson. And where this really has worked well is in my previous territory, I worked with a lot of copier and print companies and voice over IP dealers. And they joined SolarWinds MSP because they were interested in adding managed services as another line of business to what they were already doing, and what they did and worked really well to help with the promotion and the expansion of their managed services business is they leveraged their install techs, those techs who installed the copiers, they installed the phone systems into new client sites. And they found that it was actually quite easy to have those techs ask a few quick questions, once the installation project work was completed and they were able to determine that the customer was happy with the work being done, to see if they could find out from that new customer, who do they rely on to look after their network and their computers. And it was simple as having them ask that one question, who do you call when you have a computer problem? And depending on that answer, they would then ask the client if they would be interested in maybe speaking to the business owner about their network management services side. Because what they were finding out is that the client wasn't even aware that they offered these types of services. The client knew that, they sell printers, they sell phone systems, they service them, but they were not even aware that they had this whole other arm to their business from a computer networking standpoint. So by having the install techs just ask that one question around who looks after the computers, it really did a great job of opening up a talk track and highlighting to the customer the fact that they did more than just install and service copiers. And it really then made sense for them, if they had their copier and telephony business, there's a lot of intrinsic value by keeping everything under one roof and having one vendor be responsible for everything. And then all that installation tech needed to do was give the name of the client over to the business owner or to the sales rep to follow up. And what we found is, the business owner for a lot of our most successful partners is intimately involved in the sales process. And in a lot of the cases, it's actually the business owner that does the initial appointment and the proposal delivery and the closing calls for deals, because there's a great deal of power in having you as the business owner be that managed services salesperson. Because it's going to be, for the most part, business owner speaking to a business owner, and there's a lot of credibility there that can be leveraged. So, if you're a business owner listening to me speak today, if you haven't considered assigning the sales role to yourself as of yet, definitely might be something to think about. But really kind of the key point with all of this, to have success in this industry, a plan needs to be made as to who is going to be tasked and held accountable with finding net new potential managed services clients, and then ultimately driving them through the sales process. And then once you've determined who's going to own the sales and marketing functions and be responsible for driving the managed services sales initiative, it will then be important to map out what your pre-sales and post-sales processes and activities will be. And by taking the time to document these, it's going to provide structure to your overall sales methodology by providing everyone within the company with a step-by-step approach for them to follow. So what you're seeing here is the chart around the MSP sales process. And we actually delivered a webinar specifically on the MSP sales process a couple of weeks ago. And it is available to listen to under the MSP Institute website. So looking at the MSP sales process, it all starts with lead generation and finding leads to help kickstart your sales process. So really the next question becomes, where are you going to find these leads? So when starting to plan out your marketing and sales activities and before casting that wide net and looking to speak to everyone and anyone, it really is important to define who it is that you're going to want to target. Because having a good understanding of your ideal client profile, it's going to go a long way in helping to provide direction to your marketing and sales teams to ensure that cycles are not being wasted trying to win over clients who may not be the best candidates for you. So if you're initially starting out in the industry, or you're planning a relaunch, spend some time really thinking, painting a picture of what your ideal client profile looks like. Who it is that you really want to target and do business with. For this campaign, are we planning on targeting existing clients? Maybe they already have some contracts or some services with you, but maybe you're looking to kind of revisit your services and introduce a new set of services, especially with security. I have a lot of partners really reviewing the program design right now and rebranding themselves as security service providers and redefining the programs that way. Or maybe we're going after just brand net new clients that have never done business with us before. Maybe who suits your services more than others? Are there certain verticals that you want to target? Maybe you have a couple of customers that you're servicing really well, and they happen to be in a specific vertical. Maybe what we can do is do some customization of our marketing material, some customization of our features and benefits, some customization of our marketing message, and maybe go a little bit deeper and to try and penetrate that vertical a little bit more. Are there certain size requirements that you want to adhere to? Are we looking to maybe target those exclusively in the small and medium-sized business space? Or maybe you want to kind of go upwards and look at the mid-market and see if there's opportunities there that you would like to pursue. By first undertaking a segmentation exercise, to determine who you want to target, it will then provide you with some great guidance and direction on what your overall sales and marketing approach and marketing message is going to be. And that in turn is really going to help determine what your marketing activities you should look at investing in and what's going to work best when targeting your ideal market segment. because marketing is all about building awareness. It's about putting the word out on the street so that, you know, anyone and everyone can learn about you as a company and the services you provide. Unfortunately, though, there are no silver bullets when it comes to marketing. There's no one single activity that you can do that's going to drive leads into your sales funnel. But rather, what works best is having a consistent and concerted effort, and it's going to involve regular and ongoing outreach, and it's going to involve using a variety of different methods to help build your brand and build awareness out in the marketplace. And so what you're seeing here is just some of the various activities that we've seen work for our partners over the years, you know, as they've gone and designed their own marketing campaigns. And really the key is to choose to start off with a couple to see what works well to help capture the attention from your key demographic. So while marketing, again, is all about regular and strategic outreach that's really focused on building your brand and building your awareness out in the market, sales, on the other hand, is a series of those daily activities that are very targeted and deliberate to help further this brand awareness. Because all of the marketing in the world is not going to close sales if there isn't an individual assigned to actively reach out and contact those companies who might be a good fit for your services. Conversely, cold calling, warm calling, networking, all of these activities would benefit greatly from an ongoing and regular marketing outreach. So the two really, really do go hand in hand to help fill your sales funnel. And again, ideally, each function should have its own resource assigned to it, whether it can be dealt with in-house or via outsourcing or through consultants with third parties or marketing companies, because at the end of the day, it really is too much to put on the shoulders of just one person. So in the beginning, you know, if you're just starting out and maybe you've never really implemented a marketing and sales plan before, you probably won't be focused on the hard dials. And what we've seen work is partners will start off with what they call a soft launch approach. And with this soft launch, you know, they're contacting a handful of customers that they can speak to about their new direction and services. And usually they're reaching out to anywhere from 5 to 10 of their best clients. Because the goal of this is to select clients that they can practice on, you know, ones that they have good relationships with, you know, that will provide good feedback and honest advice on how to better tune their sales and their technical processes. So when they are ready to implement a more aggressive, you know, customer acquisition marketing campaign, we kind of got all the bugs and the kinks worked out. And the sales and marketing teams have developed a level of comfort with how the overall flow should be. So again, looking at, you know, your internal database of clients to see who might be a good fit, you know, your sales and your marketing resources, again, might look at existing clients, you might look at hardware project clients, clients that have another line of business with you, again, kind of referencing back those copier partners, those voice over IP partners that have that line of business as well. Or maybe, again, as it seems like a lot of my partners are doing lately, you know, they're taking this time to kind of reevaluate and redesign their programs to try and standardize their programs for all of their customers. So that may be some customers that you want to contact and practice on. And the idea really here is that you want to create kind of that hot list of your most valuable clients to reach out to, and then build subsequent lists of warm clients to pursue afterwards. So kind of the equivalent of A, B, and C types of clients. And the goal is to have your appointment setter reach out, conduct outbound calls to schedule account review meetings with the business owner so that the business owner can introduce your new services or talk about changes that you would like to be making to your existing services. And when going to that first meeting, to take some of the pressure off, the focus is not necessarily on trying to get a signed contract immediately. Rather, you want to use these initial meetings to chat, find out how the business is going for them, find out what's new in their industry, you know, what's going well, what's challenging them, And then also use this as an opportunity to bring them up to speed on how business is going for you and the new initiatives that you might be taking under. And it's all about setting the stage that will allow you to bring up, the new direction of managed services, or maybe the new program service bundles that you might want to introduce, again, in that name of standardization. And when preparing for your initial client meetings, there's some good items that you might want to prepare and bring with you to these meetings. We've had partners bring sample marketing collateral with them, a sample network and security assessment report package, because the goal of this meeting is to, hopefully get an agreement to move into the next phase of the sales process, which is to do a network and security assessment with them. So our best partners bring a sample report package to kind of show them the information that they're going to be collecting. We've also seen them bring a sample quarterly or monthly executive summary report package, again, so that they can see what sort of transparency and accountability that they're going to receive on an ongoing basis if they enroll in one of your managed services contracts. And if you've been supporting them maybe in a time material fashion or an outdated contract for a period of time, you may also want to bring with you a copy of their historical spending with you for comparison purposes. Because not that we want to cannibalize the time material revenue, because I know for a lot of partners that is, even though it's time material, it's a good revenue source for you. But really what we want to do with managed services is we want to harden that revenue. We want to make it more reliable. We want to lock it down so that it's not chaotic type of revenue for you, but make it more of a predictable stream of revenue for you. You may also want to bring a sample ROI or cost of downtime worksheet so that you can prove to them that downtime, whenever there's an incident, is much more than just the invoice that you're going to send them, that there's additional soft costs as well that are incurred and have to be accounted for. HR costs, loss opportunity costs, those have to be factored in as well. And if you don't have a copy of our cost of downtime worksheet, any of your channel sales representatives have that, or you can contact me. My email will be up at the end of the presentation and we can send it out to you as well. And you need to have items like these available to bring with you to your first meeting, as managed services is a very intangible item, and having concrete examples like a sample report package, spending analysis, ROI, they're going to go a long way in helping to make things relevant to your customer and bring a level of tangibility to your overall sales process. And as mentioned, the objective of that first meeting is to conduct, kind of an overall business analysis to see if there's going to be a good fit between, your organization and the services that you offer. And if there does seem to be a fit, then the next step is really to move to the next phase of the sales process, which is the network and security assessment phase. And this is a really critical component of your overall sales process, for a few reasons. It's going to help drive adoption of your monthly contracts. It's going to allow you to do your due diligence and help mitigate your risk moving forward, because you're going to get a better understanding of the customer's environment and uncover issues early on that might need addressing, maybe with an upfront type of project. And it could possibly help create new revenue streams for you. First, again, there could be billable project work upfront if you know that from your network assessment, security assessment process, that the network doesn't meet your minimum standards. So there's going to be work that's going to need to be done to kind of bring the network up to a minimum standard that you will then take care of moving forward under a monthly contract. But also, if done well, a lot of our partners do charge for this type of assessment, because they have a variety of different assessment tools that they're using. They're gathering a few different data points. They're packaging it up all into a really professional looking report package. So don't be afraid to charge for that, especially if you're putting that type of effort into it. And conducting a security and network assessment is going to help you collect, all of that empirical data that you need to justify the value and the benefits of managed services, so that, later on, when you're hopefully trying to close the deal, If you get any objections from the prospect, especially when it comes to price, you're going to be able to refer back to this type of data and talk around it. And so that's going to, hopefully shorten your sales cycle and provide you with a definite kind of end date with a yay or nay, so that you can close out any non-receptive clients and move on. And again, because this is being conducted ahead of any contract signing, because we're doing our due diligence, it's going to protect us from financial loss and help mitigate your risk, especially if you're the type of provider that offers fixed fee, fully managed contracts. If you're that type of partner, then you definitely want to make sure that you're including this critical step, because you need to be made aware of all the risks, because once that contract is signed, that monthly price is agreed to, you're on the hook and you assume 100% of the risk, because any time that you need to spend on that network that you hadn't anticipated, that is eating into your profitability levels. All right. So once you've successfully signed on a new managed services customer, we've had the proposal meeting, we've talked to them, we've signed the deal, congratulations. You're then going to want to ensure that you have your post-sales process mapped out. And so this is going to be your onboarding process, so that you can communicate what your next steps are to your customer. And a lot of our best partners, they'll set up a meeting with the business owner and the employees. They'll bring with them a folder to hand out. They'll include, copies of a welcome letter, kind of welcoming the organization to the partnership, outlining a timeline of what's going to happen next. They might include a copy of a signed contract or a letter of engagement, a statement of work, expectations of service, how to contact support if or when the employees need to. They'll provide email addresses, phone, business hours, after hours, that type of thing. And they'll also provide a copy of the VCIO meeting schedule. Oops, didn't mean to do that. And with this last point being said, a good question that I want to ask is, have you defined what your VCIO process is going to look like? Because setting up and committing to a routine of regular visits with your new managed services clients is going to be crucial, but this does tend to be an activity that is often overlooked or not really taken seriously or given a high priority by a lot of our partners. And the benefits of including regular and ongoing VCIO meetings are enormous. First off, you're going to need these types of visits to really help justify and validate the monthly costs that they're spending with you. Because as you get going with managed services and as you really begin to fine-tune your processes and you get in the groove, if you haven't heard it yet, a common objection that you will begin to hear is, nothing ever breaks. Why am I paying you? Because think about it. The value behind managed services is for you to leverage automation, leverage technology, so that you can better support your clients today and support more clients in the future, all remotely without having to add additional headcount to your organization or having to roll a truck to deliver your services. Unfortunately, for a lot of our partners that do seem to struggle with their sales, in many cases, the human element is being removed, when in fact it actually needs to be made front and center. But instead of using your face-to-face time to fix computer issues or deliver on-site help desk support to employees, that time should now be spent with the business owner and with the senior management team, conducting regular business reviews to help validate, justify the money that's being spent, because that is really going to allow you to offer a level of accountability and transparency that maybe you haven't had the ability to deliver in the past. And these meetings are going to allow you and provide you the opportunity to build value, build that trusted advisor relationship, because with everything that you're doing now underneath managed services, there's going to be so much information that you're going to be collecting from their network. So you want to make sure that you use these meetings to really review with the business owner, what does it mean to them? What does the business owner really want to know? How do we make it relevant? Does the work that you're doing and the services you're providing, does it align to their business objectives? And you, as their MSP, should be providing them with this type of insight. And we want to use these meetings to help uncover, the business's future goals, their growth strategies, help them understand where they stand today, and help them uncover what their business expectations are for the future. Maybe they're looking at growing, and so you may want to help them understand what impact this growth is going to have on their network and security infrastructure. And you, as the MSP, needs to help the business owner with these changes. You're going to be in the position to help make recommendations on what needs to be done to implement these changes and provide very clear targets. And by making these VCIO meetings mandatory and an integral part of your service, you're going to be able to uncover revolving project work and additional revenue for yourself. So if you're not currently conducting these types of meetings today, our best partners prioritize these because they understand that there's tremendous value and stickiness that gets created by having these types of meetings and conducting these types of services with your customers, as they do really work to help get you better entrenched in their business today and in the future. And as part of the sales process, have you mapped out what your sales forecasts and team expectations are going to be? Because prior to your sales launch, you're going to want to ensure that you've set your revenue goals, your activity targets that are going to be necessary to help hit those sales targets. So what you're seeing here is a typical sales funnel for managed services. Obviously, with the sales funnel, the more leads that can be generated through your marketing efforts and sales efforts at the top, the more closed business that's going to result at the bottom. So in this example, it really starts with having that dedicated inside salesperson, that dedicated appointment setter, making calls into a database. Again, whether it's existing clients or whether it's net new clients. And they're looking to book appointments for the business owner. And again, these numbers can all be modified, but this is based on 1,000 dials a month, which is about 40 calls a day. And with this level of activity, you should see about 75 leads created out of those contacts being made, which leads to about 15 on-site meetings being booked, of which probably 12 will go off because some will cancel, some will push to the following month, or some will just disappear. Out of those 12 or so meetings being attended, looking at hopefully a 20 to 30% close rate, which works out anywhere between 2 to 3 deals a month. And depending on the types of offerings that you're going to market with, your success rate, will vary. But as the business owner, you're going to want to communicate these sales goals and these sales expectations to your team and ensure that you hold your team accountable to working through the necessary activities that are needed to help reach the sales goals being identified. And then what you're seeing here is a list of the various key performance indicators or KPIs that our most successful partners regularly track and measure to ensure that their team is on track to hitting their monthly revenue targets. And again, these KPIs are regularly communicated to staff, whether it's in weekly meetings, bi-weekly meetings, because again, we want to hold people accountable. So KPIs that are often tracked, the number of dials per day being made by the appointment setter, the number of connections being made, the number of meetings being booked per week, the number of assessments being booked, the number of closing calls, proposals being delivered, the number of book deals, and then the dollar value of the recurring monthly revenue that's been collected. And then comes the compensation review. Have you determined who and how you're going to compensate all members of your sales and marketing teams? Because if you truly want to have success in the managed services arena, then you really are going to want to ensure that you've devised and that you've implemented appropriate comp plans to incent your sales team to perform the right activities that will drive revenue on the managed services sales front. And we've seen so much variety over the years in terms of different compensation packages that are out there, different ways that we've seen partners incentivize staff. So too much to go today. You can do a whole presentation just on comp. But if you have any questions, your channel sales specialist will be able to help as well. And then lastly, prior to launch or relaunch, if we're kind of revisiting this again, has sales training been set up for the entire team? to discuss your managed services initiative, your new program bundles, your go-to-market sales process and marketing strategies. If your team is new to selling managed services, you may want to ensure that a few training sessions are organized that really introduces the team to what managed services is all about, and including things in your training around, what is managed services? What is an MSP if we need to kind of get that basic? What's the value proposition around managed services? How do you communicate and have that discussion with a prospect? How do you do a cost of downtime exercise and have that conversation with them? What are the benefits that managed services can provide to your customers? And in the beginning, there may be the need to maybe schedule weekly training to review progress, sales success, sales challenges, if the team is having, and maybe discussing how we can overcome some of those barriers to sales. And then afterwards, scheduling regular training, like monthly, is going to be important as well. Just as a point of reference, here at SolarWinds MSP, we have weekly meetings every week with the managers and senior managers and execs, and then we also hold training every week as well on certain aspects. So that is training is very, very important on our side. And again, these sessions should be led by the business owner or the senior manager, whoever you designate at the very beginning that is responsible for driving that managed services revenue number and growth initiative. So in closing, just wanted to kind of recap around, again, what are the keys to success that I've seen working with, hundreds and hundreds of partners over the years that really do separate, kind of our best performing, top performing partners, from those that really still seem to be struggling and are having a hard time getting the business off the ground. What are those key behaviors that we see? So there's 7 keys to success that I've kind of seen over the years. The most important characteristic, that is prominent in all of our top performing partners is their philosophy that managed services is a team approach, one that is championed by the business owner. In a lot of these cases, they have a dedicated person assigned to the marketing to funnel new, fresh leads into the sales funnel. They have a dedicated salesperson who takes those leads and runs with them. These individuals are entirely separate from their RMM service and support delivery staff. Just because that person, liked the RMM tool and made the recommendation to implement it, that person should be focused on just managing the NOC and that RMM tool. They should not have the sales and marketing responsibilities added onto their shoulders as well. It's entirely too much for that one person. And this team approach is that critical differentiator between our partners who do have great success and those that are struggling, because again, no one has the bandwidth to be responsible for both the sales and the service delivery side of the business. Secondly, our top performing partners, they've implemented a documented and methodical MSP sales process that starts with outbound marketing and calling activities to find new leads into the sales funnel. They have a defined and automated security and network assessment process with professional reports. And a lot of cases, sales, maybe the business owner and the technical staff, they work together to deliver the assessment results and proposal to the prospect. Thirdly, our top performing partners instill the mentality in their overall corporate culture that everyone is a salesperson. Everyone is expected to contribute and refer leads to the sales staff. Again, kind of going back to my experience working with the copier and voice over IP industry for several years, my best partners in that industry, they leveraged their field techs, they leveraged their copier installation techs, help desk staff, copier sales reps, receptionists, finance staff. Everybody was expected to provide leads into the sales funnel. And again, going back to the compensation slide, some partners even incentivize and they give bonuses for leads that do happen to close. Fourth key to success, they recognize that the sale doesn't end once the monthly contract is signed. They continually look to increase the share of wallet with their existing managed services customers because they commit to their VCIO and regular account management meetings, so that they get in front of the business owner on a regular basis, review plans for their business, and they work to incorporate themselves for future projects in initiatives. Or if they have outdated programs, there's new services that they want to introduce, they're not afraid to go out and book themselves meetings with their existing contract customers and say, look, there's a new suite of services that we're implementing. Again, with the whole market fear around security, crypto lock, or ransomware these days, very easy to initiate these conversations with your customers, very easy to change things up and go talk to them about how you're modifying and standardizing and creating kind of a layered security approach for them. So they're not afraid to go back and have those conversations, introduce new services, and increase the monthly spend that they're getting from those customers. Fifth, our top performing partners, they set and communicate sales goals, and they hold their sales team accountable for their sales activities and performance. They really do work to make sure that every team member is aware of their monthly revenue targets, that they're aware of the necessary sales activities that should be completed to help maximize their chances of reaching quota. And they commit to holding weekly sales meetings to ensure that everybody's on track and discuss ways around barriers to sales if they don't happen to be on track. They understand that our top performing partners, they understand that managed services is basically 100% a business sale. As a result, the business owner conducts, regular training with their employees, making sure that they're comfortable with having those types of business level conversations with their prospects, that they understand the value prop again behind managed services, the business benefits, that they're able to do an ROI conversation. Managed services is not a technical sale at all. Managed services is all about the services that you can provide that's going to help create revenue, protect revenue, and grow revenue for a business organization. So making sure that your team has that understanding and is able to communicate effectively on that is paramount. And then lastly, kind of my first point, I'm going to end it with my last point, can't say it enough, business owner involvement does seem to be that key differentiator between our partners that, again, are growing month over month, year after year, versus those that do seem to be struggling. As the business owner, this is your vision. This is your exit strategy for your organization. As such, you need to take charge and drive the change. You need to be intimately involved in the entire initiative. You need to be able to track and measure how the team is doing and progressing, and making sure that they're aligning to the key performance indicators that you've set out. So hopefully today's webinar has provided you with sufficient food for thought of items to consider, as you work towards officially launching or relaunching your managed services initiatives. Hopefully I've given you a good idea of what really sets apart our best partners from partners that wish they could be doing better. But one last thing to contemplate and potentially think about and prepare for: what, after all of this planning, the implementation, you discover that you don't have the right people or the right employees within your organization in place? What if you have employees that are resisting this change? Have you thought about what your strategy is going to be to manage through this? Because it's not really advisable to have employees dictate the direction of your business. Again, this is your business. This is your exit strategy. So if you find that you don't have the right personalities to execute on your vision, or you don't have the right technical staff with the right skill sets you desire, don't be afraid to make changes in personnel if need be. This is a culture shift, and it's okay to transition certain employees out of the organization in favor of new faces and new talent with the desired skill set if need be. absolutely appreciate that it would be a difficult task to do, but it really is imperative if you want to improve and grow your business. Because it really is better to take care of these HR issues in the beginning than trying to work around all of these negative personalities or individuals that are going to struggle and going to undermine what you're trying to achieve. So that wraps up everything for our presentation today. Eris, I guess I'll throw it back to you and see if there was any questions.
Yeah, just a couple. So the first one comes back when you were talking about the sales process and you were discussing doing a network and security assessment. The first question that came up was, do you see MSPs using, tools and software to do those network and security assessments, or are they doing them manually?
No, you can't do it manually, especially if you're gearing up and you're having an appointment setter making appointments for you. As you get going, you might be having 2 or 3 or 4 appointments a week. You're just not going to have time to do anything manually. So again, you have to leverage automation. You have to leverage tool sets to be able to help. And we'll have partners that will leverage their RMM to kind of collect the network data, and then they'll use, a couple of different security assessment toolkits to kind of collect the security data. But no, most definitely you need those types of tools, because they're also going to give you really good reports, like professional looking reports that you can then leverage your recommendations and make your recommendations off of. So there will be a little bit of a manual component as you create your executive summary and maybe your project outline on what you're seeing and what you need to do to kind of resolve what you're seeing. But from a data collection standpoint, you don't have time to do it manually. You need to leverage tools.
Follow-up question to that same person would be, do you have any software you see used most often? What might be a good one for them to go look at?
Right. So obviously your RMM, whether you're using our RMM or RN Central and you have Report Manager, there's a network assessment report right within there that you can use. From a security perspective, obviously, hopefully you know about our risk intelligence data breach software that we have. And so that you can kind of, find out what data is kind of exposed and vulnerable. And then we've seen, just other network scanning software. If you put it into Google, you'll be able to find some stuff. But talk to your channel sales rep and they can talk to you about that as well.
Next one would be, what kind of staffing or roles or responsibilities do you think are absolutely necessary for launch?
Well, you definitely, from the service technical side, you need to have someone who's going to be responsible for your RMM. Setting it up, they know how to use it, they know how to onboard clients, they know how to get reports out of it. So your technical needs to be there, and they need to be left alone so that they can just focus on the technical aspects of your RMM. From a sales perspective, having someone that can book appointments, and whether this person is calling into existing database or whether they have a list. You need somebody to help fill the sales funnel, especially if you don't have somebody that can be dedicated to marketing, because as we talked about, there's marketing activities that need to be done to build awareness. So if we're looking for a number, I would say we need at least 3 to 4 people to really get it off the ground, with one of those persons being the business owner, president, or key senior exec, depending on how your organization is structured. But again, it kind of going back to, and where that point comes from is, I've seen it a lot when I was supporting the copier role, where the business owner would purchase the RMM software. They would put it in the hands of the technical person because they were the person that did the evaluation and said, yeah, this is great software, let's get it. And then that business owner made that technical person be responsible for learning the technology, getting it set up, calling customers, going and doing the assessments, presenting the proposals, onboarding them. Like, they just made that person responsible for everything. So it is really critically important to draw a line down, let the technical folks on technical, and then determine if we can have one or two people, with hopefully one of those being the business owner, being focused on the sales and marketing aspects.
I think that's it for the questions at this point.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We will be, again, updating that website that we talked about, the MSP Institute website. You can find it right from the SolarWinds MSP page and go to resources. You'll see it in the bottom right corner of that drop down. I believe the website is just solarwindsmsp.com/MSP Institute. For those of you looking, by all means, please visit that regularly. We'll be updating our content there frequently, including the recording of this session will be posted there as soon as we can get it there. So thanks again for everybody for joining us. Really appreciate it. Feedback is always welcome. Email myself or Stephanie, and we will help you as best we can, or at least direct you to the right person. And have a great rest of your day.